You are flying with Pod Squadron Podcast. All wings report in. This is Andy, Pod Job, standing by.
This is Pod Tracer, standing by. And Pod Rod?
And how about
This
Pod
is
Rod?
This is Pod Rod, standing by.
You've never had to do this before.
I've never had to do this before.
Yes, so for today, Rodney has left the support ship, the capital ship, and has joined us in a starfighter for the day. Welcome aboard, everyone. All ships to attack formation. Mission objective to talk about Star Wars in movies, streaming, animation, books, themed experiences, and your art and inspiration from a galaxy far, far away. Tonight, our flight plan includes Andor, Star Wars Andor episodes 1 through 3, the new series on Disney+. And for all of you out there, all comm channels are open. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Find us on YouTube. Like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you know when we have new content. But first, I will be your squad leader for today. I am Andy Lowe, aka the Chinese Pirate. I'm a director, storyteller, puppeteer, performer, and fight choreographer. On my wing, as always, is Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy, the hot nerd girl, farmer, daughter, girlfriend, puppy and kitty mom, and all around geeky girl who will probably out nerd you.
And forming up with us is Fleet Admiral Rod, joining us in the Starfighter for today.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me. Not that well, we had two squad members, squadron members, not able to join us today for various reasons, but we wish Jason and Lexi, we miss you. Jason is under the weather, and Lexi is traversing the universe in transit.
Currently in a spaceport.
Yes.
Yeah, she's currently in a spaceport. And
was hanging out in Scarif, in tropical Scarif. Yes.
Yeah. So I am jumping in,
right.
figure what the hell.
And of course, we are just one squad in this fleet. We're part of the Geekish Network. That's right here on YouTube, and you can find us on Facebook and every other social media platform, but we broadcast here live on YouTube and on Facebook. So as foils to attack position, we're going in. Let's just jump right into this, because I've been pretty excited by this. I presume you guys are pretty excited about this, yeah?
A little bit.
Yeah. just a little bit.
So of course, Star Wars Andor, the prequel series to Rogue One, has premiered. They have dropped the first 3 episodes. Episode 4 is dropping in the next 48
2
hours.
days. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna jump right into this. So of course, this is a series created by Tony Gilroy, inspired by the events of Rogue One, and of course leading up to it. And we're definitely seeing a very different tone in this new piece as we follow kind of the origin story of Cassian Andor, and through his eyes see kind of the origin of the rebellion itself. Yeah, where do you guys want to start with this? I mean, do you want to let's just do brief, just overall impressions, things that surprised you guys before we get into nitty gritty.
I think the biggest surprise to me was I think I was expecting his childhood to be a little different. I wasn't really expecting like a Lord of the Flies type scenario. I was more expecting like a refugee type of scenario, since I mean, he says,
Actually, very quickly, I will say yes. So this is spoiler zone. So we are talking about the show. We're going right into it this time. So if you have not seen it, go watch it. Come back and listen to this.
Right. So it's like a whole like little village of kids, right? And obviously wearing like very mismatched, clothes that are too big and too small or whatever. And I was expecting there to be parents involved and not just kids, I think.
Well, this is interesting, right? Because we are actually introduced to 3 new locales, right? So one, we have Ferrix, and Ferrix is the planet that was always referenced. For those of you who are deep cut folks, Ferrix is the planet of origin that was named for Cassian Andor in the visual dictionary when Rogue One released. But then we also discover that there's this other planet, Carrion.
No, Canary.
Canary. Sorry.
Yeah.
Canary, it's saying it wrong. Canary, not like Canary. Canary, which appears to be his actual planet of origin, and they very deftly, very cleverly set up that Ferrix is an alibi, which they refer to a couple of times.
Fest is the alibi.
Fest is the alibi.
Canary is where he's from, Ferrix is where he was raised, and Fest is where he claims to be from.
Got it. Thank you for clearing that up for me. That's, yeah. But it's all, it is still, so for those of you like they changed it, they retconned it. It's like, actually, I think they did it right. They addressed it, right? Because there are multiple times when the character goes, wait, isn't he supposed to be from Fest? It's like, yeah, all of our records say it's Fest. It's like, well, the records we find out were forged as he is living.
The one thing that confused me about Canary is that this is okay. So it opens up with being 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, right? But then this is when another 15, 20 years before that is when we're on Canary and he's a kid. And this would be during Clone Wars time, like towards like the end of Clone Wars time. And they show the ship that goes down that the kids see and they go after it. They have the logo of the Separatists on them, but then later on,
which is interesting because she refers to them as Republic, right?
Right. And the guy when now this is getting a little later on, but there's a guy that Cassian's trying to get a ship from who also refers to it as an Imperial mining disaster, right? Which the Empire wasn't around. So I'm hoping that they kind of just, go into that a little bit more. And the other thing that I'm kind of hoping that they go into a little more is if Marva and Clem, who are his foster parents, aka kidnappers, if they're the ones that take down that ship.
Yeah. That was something I was thinking about too. So sorry for everyone if this is feeling pretty slapdash. We're reacting directly to it. We're going to be jumping around throughout this conversation. But yes, so we are talking about the adopted parents of Cassian Andor, who, yes, we discover out of order that they were the sole survivors of this crash ship on Kenari.
No, they weren't sole survivors. They were scavengers. They had their own ship.
Oh, I thought they were on.
No, I think I agree with Tracy. They were scavengers.
So they made it onto the ship before the kids did,
or they were in the general vicinity.
Yeah, no, the kids. So the kids show up. The one like super brave girl who I think they call Alpha 1.
Yeah.
She goes up. Yeah, she goes up, and there is one survivor, and he shoots her, and all the kids blow their poison darts at him and take him down.
Right.
And they all leave to take Alpha 1. He stays. And he goes inside the ship
but there's
to look
no
around.
evidence. But there's no evidence that Marva entered the ship after them.
Because they leave with him on their ship.
Yeah,
they landed in their own ship.
And they also, in their dialogue, they were saying that they were basically scavengers and they were trying to scavenge the ship. And that was like part of the reason why they made the decision. But I think we are jumping around quite a bit.
And their droid is also a ground mech salvage unit. Like he is a scavenger droid. And so, but also every single person that was on that ship had yellow skin because of the bomb.
Right,
and they didn't. Right. They came on after the kids had already left, and Andor
So that's interesting because I had the impression that they were on board the ship. They may have sabotaged and poisoned everyone aboard and were on the run to get out. Because I mean, the thing is, when they were walking through, they were like already spotting like, oh, you know how much those go for, right? So they were gonna pull that stuff, get out quick, and I had assumed they were the ones who taken the ship down.
So that's what I want to know. I hope that they actually state whether or not that's the case, is if they were the ones. Because if they did, then they are kidnappers and murderers. Not good guys.
I mean, I was getting space pirate vibes for them. I mean, I don't know about y'all.
Okay, so twice now Paul has mentioned about how there were no subtitles with what the kids were saying.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
I actually really liked that because I don't think we were supposed to like you can kind of understand from their tone that they're like, we should go to the ship, right? Like, oh God, but if you see, and there was an interview with Fiona Shaw, who plays Marva, his adopted mother, and she says that they actually created a full language for these kids, that the kids had to learn how to speak with grammar, like everything, right? And they made sure that the adults did not know how to speak it, so that the adults would be just as confused as the kids.
Now, I also really appreciated just that phonetically. I appreciate that phonetically, that the kids are, whatever dialect they are speaking is still based on Spanish pronunciation. So we have just a little bit of kind of world building in terms of justifying
his accent.
His the actor's actual accent, right?
Yeah.
Diego Luna's, which I thought was cool.
I think it was really, really cool, and I think you get enough in the inflection, the body language. The movements of the hands, the hand communication, to kind of understand like, okay, the relationships with everyone, the dynamics, that's his sister, that she's the leader and they're off on a mission. I mean, it's just like even when the Euro's like yelling, she's like trying to get the attention, and then the leader says like, stop it. You could tell she means, hey, cut that out, so I think that was really, really good. I thought that was very, very excellent, actually.
So I'll also say too, I was getting major Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome vibes from these kids, right? And
Lord
of course,
of the Flies.
I am really intrigued to see how this plays out in terms of how this is Star Wars without heroes, right? Is that this is Star Wars from the common person perspective. So you're seeing all these people who are basically casualties of war, not necessarily the Galactic Civil War, but the whole like separatist versus republic, and to have like a planet that is basically decimated through mining or for whatever reason from towards the war effort, and all the adults are gone.
Or it
And all
was like
these
the
kids,
children of
right?
Mira, where there was a disease that just kills all the grown-ups, and when you get to a certain age,
Yeah,
you're
I
just
mean,
gonna die.
like I said, major Mad Max 2, or final act of Mad Max 2 vibes from these kids, these kind of feral kids that somehow survive.
That brings up a really good point too, Andy. I think this series as a whole is really, really focusing on the byproducts and the effects of this global, I mean, not global, but galactic conflict, right? Between the Empire and the Rebellion, and and all that stuff. But taking it from the very granular position of like, these are the people that are directly affected, that are suffering all the consequences, that are being exploited, that are, giving reasons for them to like rise up. And, those are, and just like I guess, the blue collarness of it all, right? Just, it's I think it's, so that I think, going back to your first question of like what your overall opinion is, I think that's one of the biggest things that really got to me.
Yeah.
Was that there are no heroes, there's no Jedi, there's no, it is literally the ground zero of this conflict. It is the beginnings of the rebellion, and it's showing that in its true gritty, view. And that to me alone, just like the production value alone, just blew me away. Like,
so I want to come back and talk about Marlona 1, but before we do, so let's talk about Ferrix and even just design of Ferrix, everything in this planet, right? Yeah. It is, I mean, there's certainly a visual vocabulary that we've seen before with like the debris and the scrapper planets, and even shades of Tatooine, but it definitely has that kind of Liverpool kind of old UK factory town kind of vibe where everything is pieces, and there is a, not that everything is like, in accord, but like you're saying, Rodney, it's like that blue collar, everyone kind of goes through their day, does their work, this kind of scrapyard town as they salvage stuff, right? And I just kind of I love God, even the ship. Okay, I'm skipping ahead to something from episode 3, but the ship, the little shuttles that Skarsgård comes in on, and if you look at that design, it looks like an old red car trolley that flies, right? So it's kind of like, it is like this like very kind of 20s 30s Depression era shipbuilding
Philosopher
town,
King
right?
says it's the Pittsburgh of the galaxy. Not anymore. Pittsburgh is apparently amazing now. Literally had a conversation about that last night, about how Pittsburgh is like their favorite city.
Yeah. All the chipped paint, all the yeah.
Just them scavenging, like Ferrix alone. It's just like, okay, what's the economy here? Oh, they're scavenging. That's all they're doing, right? They're not creating anything. They're not.
Wait,
they're not building anything.
But they're scavenging for somebody else. I thought, aren't they scavenging for the Republic?
Well, for this corporation, I don't remember. I didn't catch the name of the corporation.
I don't think, it's like Marcorp or something,
right?
And so. And Michael brings up that a lot of planets and tribes and people, for a lot of them, the Jedi were the bad guys. Mm-hmm. So to see like the blue collar guys be like their own heroes and defending themselves, and having not only defending themselves, but having a system in place to help each other with all the.
I really dug the bell system, right?
right. Yeah. And it's used often enough that they know what it means.
Right.
Somebody else said, I think it was Philosopher King early on said that it's got the classic spy convoluted backstory, which I think we knew we were going to get, right? This is like the espionage storyline of the Star Wars universe. But they really started that off with a bang, where everybody has a cover story for every single thing that they're doing. It is like Spycraft 101.
Spycraft, exactly. That's a great way of...
Skarsgård comes in, like before he even like fully recruits him, he's like, rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3. And Cassian is listening, and he's actually applying them within minutes of being told these rules.
So the corporation name is Preox Morlana. Preox Morlana.
Right. And they are in the pre-Mor corporate zone.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's an interesting thing too. We also even see how, to a certain degree, even I don't even know if we can call them villains, right? But everyone, you get the sense of everyone is kind of a victim of this war, right? Where you have these corporate security guys who, you know, they're not necessarily bad guys, but they are certainly itching for a fight and just kind of feeling empowered and maybe a little bit entitled because of their position. We also see like the lead guy when let's see here, what is his name? Karn. When whoever is in charge of Karn, when Karn goes to the older guy, and he's basically like, don't make a big fuss out of this, because we don't want the Empire to come down on us. Like the more we are out of the eyes of the Empire, the better it is for everyone. And clearly these guys were being assholes, so they probably got what they deserved. So don't make a big... But of course, you know, this guy who's tailored his own... Who's personally tailored... Like, that's a great little detail.
It is a great detail, right?
And you see it on the other uniforms, how the piping is down here, and his is like right on the cuff. Like,
and he personally tailored his uniform.
He made it tighter, right? Everyone's is kind of baggy. His is like super tight. And,
but you can also see just how overwhelmed he is once shit starts going actually down. What's the name of the other guy? The other guy who's all aggro,
Linus Moss.
Linus who's just itching for a fight, right?
Yeah.
The Dwight Schrute to his Michael Scott.
Yes.
I saw that somewhere and I laughed so hard.
I mean, that's the great thing about this arc, is that you can't really point to any single one person as like the villain here, right? It's like a couple of corpos get a little drunk and are kind of jerks to, you know, to Cassian. Cassian gets overzealous, accidentally kills these guys. You know,
the second guy, he just full on just shoots his face, right? But the first guy was accidental. Yeah, exactly.
At that point, he has to, because he can't have it leave.
He can't have witnesses, right?
Witnesses, right?
I think there was another.
This is the first person that Cassian has killed.
I don't think so.
Oh, I think he has. I think absolutely, because you can see because you can see kind of the remorse and like the fear and the kind of the recognition. Like, I don't think he's been in something this deep before.
Right, but then he makes a conscious decision that he is like he's not gonna he's gonna take out anybody who stands in his way, right? And we see that later in Rogue One, right, where he's like, "You're my ally, and I'm gonna take you out because you're gonna hold me back." Like the information is more important than the person,
right? So Paul asked, "How did the first guy die?" He said he missed that part. I think in the struggle, he hit his head. Yeah. So he hit his head, and then the other guy. But then the whole reason why he's even there is that he's looking for his sister.
Yeah.
Right.
So that also shows the links that he's going to find his sister. Right.
And how sad is it that he's looking for her in a brothel?
Right. He's lying. He's borrowing. He's stealing a ship for the night. Right. Borrowing a ship for the night. He's lying to basically everyone he knows. To basically find his sister, and the fact that
and
he's
getting
looking
them all to
his
lie
sister.
for him too.
So it does show that like he's
those big puppy dog eyes.
Super, you know, it is a noble goal, but the way he's going about it is really, really shady and dirty, right? So the shades of gray are pretty amazing.
It's also pretty clear that these are the only resources he has, right?
True. He's making use of what he has.
Right. Just because everything is, you know, I mean, for that matter, it's like even on the corpo side, right? It's like you can kind of see they don't have any way off the rock either. So you have, you know, what'd you say his name was again? I keep forgetting his name.
Which
Not
one?
Linus, the
Karn.
main Karn, who is right, you know, trying to, you know, in his vision, uphold the law, and two other officers have been killed.
Mhm.
But of course, you know, and trying to uphold law, you know, to the letter of the law as he sees it. But of course, it's still kind of in this very by the book that doesn't serve anyone, right? And then of course Linus, who is perhaps too aggro and too trigger, not even trigger happy, just too nervous.
Linus or Karn?
Linus.
The sergeant,
Because he's the one who's basically like, oh gosh, we're surrounded. After like basically, you know, one of the other soldiers gets nervous and like doesn't remove the tether on the ship and crashes himself.
But we have to remember that these are not soldiers. These are basically glorified mall cops.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They have been sucked into this and they don't even know what they're getting into. And the
Right.
whole pep talk on the way there is Linus being like, we're, you know, they're not going to see what's coming. We're going to defeat them easily. And Karn being like the worst pep talk giver ever. Like, yeah, guys.
Which is just great world building, right? In terms of none of these people are major players. None of these people, everyone here is ultimately a victim of this war and trying to find a place in the galaxy. And it's this series of crazy random happenstances that lead to like a lot of crap going down. I mean, for that matter, even what's her name? Bix's boyfriend, Tim, who just gets a little jealous and screws everything up for himself and for Bix and for
Talk about instant karma, though.
Yeah, seriously.
I love how everybody's like, how dare you mess with Cassian, like Cassian. Like, so I've got two comments here before we move away from kind of talking about like how it compares to, you know, like the world building. Philosopher King says that this series feels like a way of depicting the troubles in the UK, the IRA versus the Loyalist conflict with the Empire
Sure.
taking the place of the British. And then Michael says Iraq is a great example of how people good and mostly bad fill a vacuum left behind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think all of the above, right?
Yeah,
I
all of the
mean-
above. Yeah. The starts of the fomenting of a rebellion, the starts of a rebellion, the reasons why people rebel, you know, everything.
And the distrust that the locals are giving these guys, you know, the distrustful looks that they're giving him before they even know why they're there. It's like, what are you doing here? We've got our eye on you.
Yeah. It is very much like these are all ecosystems that run just fine, you know, in and of themselves. And it only takes a little bit of disturbance to basically, you know, reset the balance and just throw everything into chaos.
It's really interesting too from a world building standpoint. They don't even really say it, but that portion when they start banging on anything, on metal, all this stuff, you know that they've basically have a culture of fighting the man, whoever
Yeah.
that might be, right?
Yeah.
And they're there to protect themselves, and so you get that sense that like, okay, this isn't the first time they've been, you know, raided or whatever. It's like
I feel like they get regular inspections. Otherwise,
Yeah.
because their gloves are all lined up so perfectly on that wall, right? And it's like everybody has a spot for their work gloves. If they weren't being like regularly inspected, maybe they would all just get thrown in boxes or something.
This is a great detail too, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so many great details like that where like the gloves or the, you know, just
Just seeing that laid out tells you everything
Right.
you need to know about how the system works here,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
like, you know, the one thing too, just all these little small details that, you know, I guess we can talk about pacing later, but I think like even just the guy, that's his only job. He's just to ring that bell, right?
Yeah.
And they spend that time. They spend
Wasn't
that
he
time on that guy.
amazing?
And he was amazing, right? And it was just like, yo, in other series, because they're like 6 episodes long, you wouldn't get that. You wouldn't get that detail. But it like really
like the process that he goes
the
through
process,
before.
like all that stuff, just like, you know, the ringing of the bell. But it also ties into like the ringing of the bells when people are ringing their all their different things when they're raising the alarm, right? So it does bring towards the storytelling, but it's also just a detail that just really fleshes out that world. You know,
That actor's last name is actually Bell.
But he's like, I've got one job and I'm going to do it really, really well. You know, it's like,
I mean, for that matter too, right? I mean, how much we are able to learn and infer about kind of our core characters just from these exchanges, right? I mean, we discover just how tech savvy and how savvy Cassian is through, you know, his exchanges with his friend where he establishes an alibi, and you can get the sense that they've been doing this kind of alibi talk for years now, right? With Brasso.
I want to know more about Brasso. He's cute.
Brasso is pretty badass.
We also have the exchange with Bix, where you can kind of wait, is it this episode, the first episode, or is it later, where Bix has the whole code speak that lets her get access to the secret
it's the first
communication?
episode.
It's the first episode.
Yeah,
right.
It's the first episode. I just rewatched it right before we went live, so
She's
it's
super
either
cute
the first
too.
one or the very early in the second one. So.
Right.
But yeah, Bix is amazing. Yeah, I guess the other thing is like, I have a question to you guys. What do you guys think about? Because normally some of these series so far, some of the tertiary and minor characters have, you know, a little bit lacking, right? But these characters, even if they have small parts, they really seem really well done, right? So like you said,
it's all very fleshed out.
Very, very fleshed out.
Even the mechanic who yells at Cassian in the yard, it's like his reactions and the way he's just like, I don't know.
Okay. Another great character building moment where another guy tells Cassian, "You still owe me money. I want the money back." Yeah. And he turns to the big alien and goes, "You gonna stand here? Or really? You taking orders?" It's like, he just told me to stand here.
yeah, that was great.
But it tells you.
Oh, that guy played a White Walker or somebody in Game of Thrones. He's like 7'1" in real life. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, I also have to have a little bit of appreciation for B2 Emo, who is very quickly becoming my favorite. I love the whole bit of I need you to lie for me. It's like, I only have enough power for one lie. It's like, that's 2 lies. That requires more power. Which, you know, it's like, it's a hysterical line, but it's also kind of like, you know, there are times when I'm like, I only have enough power for one lie.
Yeah.
There's a scene though where there's a scene where his beat up current self is rolling down the street and a cart goes by and it flashes to him as like a brand new droid on the ship when they first take Cassian, right? When Marva and Clem are first taking Cassian, and he doesn't have any issues, right? He's you know, his robot droid mind is really intact. So like, he obviously has been taught as a fully intact and new droid how to do things like lie, and is able to kind of hold on to that stuff. And he just tries, like, he tries really hard to oh, hi. I don't know if they can see that or not. Anyway, we just had visitors. You know, like he's trying. It's almost like somebody who's got like a little bit of dementia, right? Like he's trying to hold on to this old life and is struggling. Is that Chuck? Oh, there he goes. Okay. Okay. Did you guys see that?
Yes.
No, not you. I'm talking to the people. Oh, Michael says, do not piss off maintenance. It's a good way to get grounded. Oh, and they're calling Karns a charisma vacuum.
Yeah. Definitely agree with that. Did you guys, speaking of the flashbacks, what did you guys think about that?
About the
storytelling the way they were framing it, the way they were jumping back and forth.
I think they did a better job than they did in Book of Boba Fett. I like
exactly my thought. That was exactly my. I didn't want to I hate to compare, but
I mean, to
man,
be fair,
this is so. It's so apples against apples, right?
I mean,
usually
yeah,
it's
this is a much simpler story they're trying to tell in terms of an origin.
But even the transitions, like the way that they transition from past to present, is just
especially in episode.
It's more
3.
inspired,
right?
Especially in episode 3, the way they intercut that last 10-15 minutes.
Oh my god, yes. When it's like them flying off and he's looking into the sun, and then it's like she looks back at him and it cuts back to the grown-up Cassian, and you're just like, and then and the ship that he is stealing, that's the ship that he was rescued in. So he's sleeping in the bunk that he woke up in, pretty much just not knowing anything but this primitive existence, and next thing he knows, he's flying on a spaceship, with this prism that looks like a kyber crystal shining in his eyes, and and it was just the way that it goes back, and you can still see that thing hanging in the window, but it's all dusty, and it's dirty and dark, and it's not shining, and yeah, the way they intercut everything was just, it was so much better than the Book of Boba Fett, how they did it. And I liked the flashbacks in the Book of Boba Fett, but the way that they transitioned it was just a lot more clever, more thought out.
I also want to just throw out some appreciation for the actress who's portraying Marva, and just kind of seeing these two versions of her.
Petunia.
As when she's kind of really plucky and sly scavenger pirate, maybe, not sure what her ulterior motives are, and then of course as the older kind of cared for, it is such a strong contrast in performance, and
I love it. She only had so much screen time, but it was so effective.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think that was the other thing that I was really amazed about, was these characters had really only a few minutes of screen time. I mean, besides Cassian, but they all just were so effective in the moments they had, right? And I got a little emotional there at the end of 3, where it was just like, wow,
she didn't have to speak a single word.
Yeah, it was
sitting alone in a tossed, flat with B2 emo.
Yeah.
And she doesn't care about the job she's got to clean up. She feels so protective of Cassian, and she doesn't know when she's going to see him again.
Yeah. I mean,
you also get the sense too, right? Of she is a shadow of who she was when she was younger, and you really get the sense of the toll this war has taken on all of the people, right? I mean, that have kind of lived with war now for some, I guess at this point, 30 or 40 years, right?
Yeah.
Should we be proud of her that she #AdoptDon'tShopped?
She kind of shopped. I mean, if you really want to, she could have went and grabbed the rest of the kids. She was like, no, I got one already. This one right here. No, but I mean, but speaking of that, right? That was what conveyed to me, right? Was one, I feel like the guilt of that, right? That guilt of him taking away Cassian from the planet, and then also this fear that she's had probably over close to a decade now, of this exact scenario happening, right? Where,
do you think she feels guilty? I don't think she feels guilty.
I think she feels
I
guilty.
Think she
in
does.
this
I think
sense.
she has something.
Really?
I think she does a little bit.
I think so. I think she does, in the sense that, you ever hear that line? The other guy, I forgot his name, but her companion, the guy,
right?
He says he has
people.
family. He's got people here. Leave him here. He's got people here. And she's like, oh, they're gonna be dead. We might as well take him. So it's I think the guilt is that he gets himself into this situation because he's looking for his sister.
Right.
Right. So I think she has guilt there.
But he already has a criminal record. And I almost want to see if somehow his past, because they make such a big deal about him being from Fent. Sorry, not from Kenari. If somehow him being figured out resulted in Clem's being killed in the town square.
See, I'm guessing that is going to come up later. So just for the record, Cassian's the rap sheet includes insurrection, destruction of imperial property, and an assault on an imperial officer. Right, so that's the interesting one right there. Assault. He's already assaulted an imperial officer.
Wait, but the Empire doesn't exist yet.
At this time, yeah, it does.
At this time, it does. It's only 5 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Okay. Yeah. I'm thinking of his childhood.
So at this point, the Empire has been around for at least 15 years.
So Michael's suggesting that it's survivor's guilt.
I think it's all of the above, right?
Yeah.
I think, and then she effectively became his mother, right? And then I think this is the scenario that she feared for ever since she got him, is that he was going to get into this type of trouble, And
do you think we're going to see like a Jojo Rabbit type, like with his dad, like in the town square, and Cassian like holding his legs?
I think we're going to see, maybe if we continue to do these flashbacks, we're going to see more and more of how restrictive life became after the Empire took place, and how these corporations kind of took hold, right? Right, because I mean, we know like governorships kind of happened. That's why we have Governor Tarkin. We have have had other governors and moffs that kind of control various sectors and systems. So under imperial rule. So I mean, I think we're going to see kind of how these are installed and kind of the genesis of these.
Okay, so Lint 324 just brought up, and Lint came in late, so he missed. I think you missed my initial like thoughts about it, and how I was surprised at Cassian's origin story, because he's saying that the kid doesn't look 6, and that was part of my point, was that he's obviously like 12 and his sister is like 6. And he's very clear in Rogue One that he's been fighting this battle since he was 6 years old. So did he witness as a 6-year-old what happened on his planet? It just wasn't the origin story I was expecting.
I mean, I don't think we've gotten that yet. I think we'll cover it later, and they've already indicated that there has been mining disasters on this planet, which they say has killed everyone on this planet. So I mean, the fact that people from Kenari exist is still already a surprise, right?
Because they don't even go into like the mining incident. They don't, it's already there. The one shot of him standing on the rim of the pit. It's like it's the scar of it's there, but it's like nothing's happening there, right? So it could be that since he was 6, the Empire has been ravaging his planet, and that
or rather the Republic,
right?
Or the Republic, exactly, right? And so I think that's easily explained away in that regards, but I think it's just.
So Kevin thinks that some of the other wreckage didn't look like mining equipment; that it looked more like other ships. So maybe there was some kind of battle. Or of some kind.
The wreckage where?
On Kenari, that not all of it looked like. I think. Is that what you're talking about, Kevin? Comment if you're talking about Kenari or if you're talking about Ferrix. But I'm pretty sure he's talking about Kenari. Because he's saying mining equipment. Yeah. So he's saying that it doesn't look like all of it is mining equipment. Some of it looks like ships. So maybe there was something else that happened. Yeah. But like going back to even like the IRA comparison, like, like in the British, that like the disaster in Wales, that where, the mining companies were, creating all of these, piles, and it just killed like 150 kids in a school. Right. So yes, he confirmed Kenari.
I mean, we don't really get to see the mining equipment, right? We see the pit where the mines, like the big quarry pit, where the mines were.
You can see the mining equipment in the background.
Not really up close, right?
Right.
We only see the ship wreckage up close, and we don't necessarily have confirmation if the people in that ship are Republic or Separatist. We know
Right,
that
because they could be in disguise.
right. So we do see a Republic symbol though on or emblem on one of the uniforms. So I think
No,
right?
it's a separatist.
It's Separatist. Okay.
It's a separatist logo. This better not be like the Lost of Star Wars. We better get answers.
I'm sure they will. I mean, they're definitely setting things up. Should we move on to talking about Luthien? Because we haven't really touched on him much yet. Because he has a really great little introduction here. Of course, Stellan Skarsgård, who is just kind of amazing in everything. Anyways,
Yeah, he's amazing in everything.
He's even amazing in Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
Oh,
he is amazing.
God.
I think he's
007, what's his name, was terrible in that movie. Like just stand there and look pretty.
Pierce
just stand there
Brosnan.
and look pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was amazing. Just it's so believable. It's just so
all that gravitas, right?
He's looked the exact same age for 40 years.
And it's just like, his voice.
It's our Viking blood.
Yeah. Father to all the other Skarsgårds, right?
Some more really great world building in the exchanges with him and the old salesman dude, who was on the shuttle with him. Just kind of getting the sense of like where the galaxy's at. What are people doing? How are people getting by in this economy and environment? And watching him kind of navigate this very talkative man. It
was a Chernobyl reunion.
Yeah.
The two of them were in Chernobyl, and the guy who plays Linux was in Chernobyl.
Oh, really?
The production designer is the production designer of Chernobyl as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That I didn't know.
Luke Skull, I believe his name is. Yeah. I that podcast I was listening to, The Watch, when they interviewed Tony Gilroy, basically he was talking about the production designer, and he mentioned that he was Chernobyl, and I was like, oh, that totally makes sense, because Chernobyl's design was amazing, and then just the whole production design was just amazing, and so yeah, it's definitely a bunch of people from Chernobyl on that project, and it's just kind of, you can tell, right?
So I just really loved, just as a character building thing, just watching him navigate this conversation with this talkative man, and how much he doesn't say, right? Yeah. And that kind of tells you everything you need to know about this man with secrets. How he carries himself down the street with this cane that he's not using to hold himself up. He's just kind of holding a stick to look cool. Yeah. Also,
he's got his walking upstairs, walking in the snow uphill both ways speech too. Like when you landed, you could taste the iron, you could taste blood.
And then of course we have the faithful final meeting in the warehouse with him and Cassian, and as he starts testing Andor, just to find out like how he managed to get a hold of the, what is it? It's like an Imperial tracking device or something like that, or like a black box or something like that.
It's like a navigator.
But
it's one that you can only use once.
Right.
It's like almost like an IFV, like identify your friends and foe type of deal. Right?
But presumably you can identify all other Imperial ships with it.
Yeah, which is like extremely valuable if you're leading a rebellion, right? So, right. But I did think that,
or even if you're a smuggler just trying to evade Imperial.
Yeah, but what did you guys think about, like, it was almost like it was really, he didn't really care about the device. He cared about
Stellan Skarsgård didn't in the end.
Yeah, he didn't. He's like, no, I'm actually here for you.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, this is kind of, it was kind of like a
the
job interview.
Starfighter.
It's like a job interview, right? It was like a job interview. It was like, hey, I got an opening for a head spy master,
But it does bring to question how much infrastructure he already has in place, right? I mean, obviously it implies that he's got plenty of technology. He's probably already amassing ships and fighters, and stowing them somewhere. which is interesting.
Well, from the preview, we know that we're going to see him in the past with longer hair, right? And
Yeah.
then he's in some kind of position. Like, that's how we know it's the past when they have longer hair. Even Cassian. But, you know, he's obviously in some kind of position of power. I mean, he's got credits. Like, he's just like, boom, here you go. So
Yeah, I'm very curious as they reveal more about his character and what his story is. We know that he has. I mean, again, judging from the trailers, that he does interact with or have some relationship with Mon Mothma as well.
mm-hmm. That's why I think he's some kind of senator or something.
Maybe like more like powerful elite, you know, connected, powerful elite. I think maybe politically connected, but not necessarily like a politician, right? I think that's my opinion.
What if he works with Jimmy Smits? Maybe he's like a noble.
Yeah, like a noble. I mean,
I could
something.
definitely see like a noble, but not. Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Rodney, on that. Maybe not actually like directly politically. Like he's not someone to put his face on something, but if he's like, you know,
but he's funding it behind the scenes.
He's like Julia Roberts in Charlie's War, right?
Or
she's like, you know,
or what was oh crap, the first Netflix streaming series with the
Orange is the New Black?
No, the
House of
Cards.
House of Cards. Yes,
yeah.
He's kind of like a House of Cards type figure of some kind. I get that vibe.
Yeah, that's the vibe I get too. I agree. But speaking of Jimmy Smits, do you think he's going to show up?
Oh, he's got to show up.
He's got to show
definitely
up, right?
got to show up. Yeah.
In the flashbacks, I think so.
Do you think Padme is going to show up?
Padme? You mean his wife or?
No, he's talking about Amidala.
Queen Amidala?
Well, she did.
But then, but depending on where the flashbacks go, right?
I mean, okay, like that would be interesting to maybe
how far back,
like pick up a couple of the scenes from the cutting room floor of episode 3, because there were those scenes that were shot and cut out that had Mon Mothma, Padme and Organa plotting like the seeds of the rebellion, like even that early on,
because we know Saw Gerrera does show up.
Yes,
right. Yeah. We do see that,
and I can totally see Saw working along Skarsgård's character. Like, I can't wait for those scenes.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking, like, his flashback scenes look so clean, and they kind of have like an Alderaan vibe to them. So, but we'll have to see.
The Philosopher King said Gilroy said no cameos, so staff will get anything interesting like that. Makes sense. Yeah. And I think he did also say like this is not fan service.
Okay,
he did say that too.
But that said, for that doesn't mean that there aren't
no
Star
R2D2?
Wars and Lucasfilm people working on this, right? So people have already spotted that Cassian's blaster is the same blaster that Kyle Katarn had in Star Wars Dark Forces.
Well, they say that the character is kind of based on that.
Right. But it is, I mean, that is a beloved little detail there, right? Of who knows if we'll see Cassian be able to charge up his blaster for.
Okay. Can we talk about? So this is another desert planet. Ferrix is technically the name of the city, not the planet. And there are things like a bantha skull, and things like that.
Stuffed bantha. He's got a little plush bantha.
So is this something? Like, we know we're not on Tatooine. So is this like our bantha is just like a common thing on all desert planets? Like, are
they just
hyper aware of each other? Like what?
I would imagine banthas become a beast of burden. I mean, we have cows everywhere,
donkeys everywhere, right? Horses everywhere. Yeah, it makes sense. If like, oh yeah, there's a desert
space oxen.
Yeah. I didn't catch that, so that was a good catch. I didn't see that.
It was just one of those little things where I was I was like, what? How do these connect?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting too, because when they say it's like another desert planet, I'm like, well, they didn't really show it too much, right? Which is really good to me.
I don't know that it's a desert planet, right? I mean, we've only really seen this township, and we've seen a junkyard. That was actually another cool thing to see.
I mean, it was definitely
dropping off like the remnants of a ship
Yeah.
and like slicing it in half, and so that they
Because
can
it
work
didn't
on
really
it more, right?
it was very desolate. And then the scenes where the episode 3 when they're running away on the speeder. He's going over, farmland and looked like rice paddies.
Oh my
of some
God, how
sort,
much did
right?
you
That's
love
right,
that
yeah.
Stellan Skarsgård could control his ship with a whistle?
Yeah.
It was
so
like
many
Doctor
really
Who
cool,
and Guardians
yeah.
of the Galaxy and like all these things combined, and I was just like,
He's just badass.
I did forget
He's
about
so
that shot actually.
badass.
That was a
Yeah.
gorgeous shot of the speeder bike cutting
Yeah.
past the
Yeah.
agricultural.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Like almost like every shot is just, it's so cinematic. It is,
Very conscious about not so much frame but focus, right?
Yeah.
Where our focal points are, all the scenes that are close up or like two character, you are still aware of the blurred motion or things happening behind them, or you can see B2 Emo kind of sitting there blurred out, but you're aware of the presence, so that you're conscious of people are listening, people are around.
There's
right?
activity in the world. There's life
Yeah.
in the world, right? Like even the shot with like Andor just walking towards the camera, that you see very famously in the trailer. You see people working. You see sparks flying. You see, this thing. And that's the other thing too that they were
guy
talking-
like jumping off of a curb.
Yeah, you see, like even in the and it's not even like two shot. Like in dialogue, it's not even just like two shot. It's like they're doing stuff while they're talking, right?
Yeah.
Like she's pulling, Bix is pulling stuff from the rack. She's pulling stuff from the thing. It's like him and B2 Emo. Is it B2 Emo?
Yes,
but they're talking
totally on purpose.
Yeah. When when he wakes up and he's in that little hideout and he's talking, he's like getting ready. He's like, he's putting stuff away. He's having all this conversation. There's all this like action within the dialogue, within the scenes. That's like, it's just so propulsive and just pushes things so much forward that it's just it's honestly the big feeling I had too was like, it was almost like a breath of fresh air, right? In that it was like,
So
as much
Very
as
smoggy air, but
as much as I love everything that has come, Mandalorian, Boba Fett, all that stuff, this to me really shows like what the bar can be. Like,
well, I think
like,
to their credit, I feel like this has always been the goal, right? Is to provide varying levels and various kinds of Star Wars that will appeal to various things. It just took them a little while to get to this. And the production value, I mean, to their credit, it's like, you can see there's a lot of production value, a lot of thought. This was a series that was originally going to be 5 seasons that they've now decided is 2. And it's I mean,
but we also get more episodes in a season.
That's true. Yeah.
yeah.
Can I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I know we're running out of time, so I just want to say that this makes me hungry for a series. And I know that John Boyega kind of said that he would never do like a Disney Plus series, but I want to know like the background of other characters, like Finn. Like, how did Finn become a stormtrooper? Like, how all of like those other like hidden lower decks type stories.
Right.
Anyway,
And speaking of lower decks, right? I think
Silver.
Yeah, and speaking of lower decks, that's like the comparison I've been seeing. Some of the conversations I've seen on Twitter is that Star Trek and Star Wars now are doing the smart thing of, like what you said, Andy, of providing different tonal type of storytelling within that same universe. Right. So it appeals to different segments of the fan base for different reasons and for different things. So it's very smart of them to do that. And I have to agree, because Strange New Worlds is totally different from Lower Decks, and Lower Decks is just like, animated and funny. Whereas like, and it's episodic.
Oh, I wasn't even talking about the cartoon. I was talking about
no. I know what you mean. Yeah. But I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But and I agree that like I would like to see something like a Finn series in this style, where it's very gritty and tell us of his backstory, right? And not necessarily kid focused, right?
Do you guys agree with, so Philosopher King just posted, my only small nitpick is that this show wouldn't have been as good if they only released one episode. All three felt like a film broken up into 3 parts. Do you think that you would have liked it as much if it was only the first episode that they aired? Was that like a strategic decision?
I think I would have. I think there's still a lot cinematically happening. And the thing is, it's a little bit of slow burn. I think, part of this too is there's still a lot of fan expectation that they're having to fight. And this is my thing where I mean, I always challenge my fellow Star Wars fans to let stories happen. Just stop saying we didn't ask for this or we didn't ask for that.
Patience, grasshopper.
Just let the story happen.
Appreciate
and the
what
thing
it is.
They made a conscious decision to drop all the first 3 episodes, knowing that they're probably going for a younger audience, or there is going to be a younger audience that will be watching, even though that they're targeting a kind of a more mature or a grittier tone. And it's like, really, there's not really any action until the 3rd episode, right? That's the first action sequence we've seen. And so in order to kind of drop the first 3 and still deliver on that, I think is like, okay, so yeah, that's hopefully we get to the point where the Star Wars fan base will trust a little bit more. But I think understandably so, a lot of people's trust is shaken. I think
they want the world building, but they don't want to have patience for it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is a 24 episode season.
Well, 12 for season 1. I'm not sure on season 2.
And then another 12 or 13 for season 2.
Okay. Oh, so it's going to be 24 episodes total. Okay. So I mean, but that's already 2 more episodes than we normally get in a Star Wars series. So it makes sense that they would drop 3 and then do like a normal run,
and just, I hope this becomes more the norm than the exception, because I think Boba Fett could have done 12 episodes. Would have been better at 12 episodes, or Mandalorian would be better at like 12-hour episodes, right? Mm-hmm. Like you have more time.
Mandalorian's pretty perfect.
It's true. But I'm just saying, like, all the Marvel stuff, right? 6 episodes. Just like spend more time in these worlds and spend more time on these things. You don't have to, and be able to like really, really flesh out things, But it's a great ride so far. I will add one last thing. In the podcast that he did say Tony Gilroy was, he's used to writing feature films, and that's 120 pages. So that's like 3 episodes. So he's like 3 episodes of Andor is like 120 pages.
Yeah.
It's not coincidental.
And that is something we have to remember.
It's like
it is a film person doing this. Yeah.
And then
but even still, right? The end of the first episode is still a pretty good hook. We've seen a very Casino Royale-esque, very like accidental and sloppy death, right? We've seen flashbacks to alluding to Cassian's home planet and the big mining quarry that's just left a big hole in the planet. I mean, there's a lot of great kind of things that are there to pique your interest and go, well, what is going to happen next? What more is happening, right?
Did you know that Gilroy said that each 3 episode section is directed by a different person, so they probably all get distinct acts of the story? I didn't know that each 3 episodes.
He mentioned that. He mentioned that in the podcast. Yeah, it's like each three episodes is like a block. He was
Okay.
So it leads me to believe that maybe like the next 3 is about it's focused. They might actually even go to the point where like the flashbacks in the 3rd one is with Stellan Skarsgård's character. Right?
So we almost get like 4 movies.
We have 6 episodes directed by Toby Haynes, 3 episodes by Benjamin Caron, and Susanna White directed 3 episodes. So
all right.
But that makes 9. But I think maybe I think Tony Gilroy directed 3. So,
he did.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe.
He's not listening.
Okay. Andy's got a hard stop, guys. So if anybody's got a question, then you better spit it out now.
Yeah, we should wrap.
Anything else we want to cover?
Over-expectation can be detrimental to appreciation. That's a very diplomatic way of saying that nobody hates Star Wars as much as Star Wars fans.
That's it is very true. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. This is obviously our first show to covering Andor. We're going to come into episode 4 next week. And of course, episode 4
And we're going to be weekly, right? Through the end of Andor.
We're going to be weekly through the end of Andor. Theory, Tales of the Jedi will drop at some point, and we'll probably talk about that at some point along the way too. A lot of good stuff coming. Tales of the Jedi looks great as well. And digging deeper into the stories of Ahsoka and Darth Tyrannus, also known as Count Dooku. So that's it. Wait. That's our show for today. Please come back and see us every Monday. Please also check out all of our content on podsquadron.com. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For podcast subscriptions, you can subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app. I am Chinese Pirate at Chinese Pirate _ on all platforms.
I am Tracy, the hot nerd girl. If you Google me, you'll find me.
I am Rodney, and you just find me at the Geekish Network.
And of course, this is here on the Geekish Network.
Good to see your face, Rodney.
Make sure you
Likewise.
Check out all of the other Geekish Network shows that are on every night of the week, or there's stuff going on throughout the week. So make sure you check the schedules for all the other shows and everything
Geek
else.
Beast is coming on right after this. So
Geek Beast is coming on right after us, so stick around for that. And all wings are returned to base. Course laid in and prepare to make the jump to light speed on my mark. And remember, the truths we cling to depend on your own point of view. Only the Sith deal in absolutes. Good night, everyone.
Night.
So much vodka.